We have more for your ears only. I'm Catherine Herzog.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. Little catch-up for the middle class. That was AFL-CIO Chief Economist William Spriggs after last week's Labor Department report showing a net gain of 217,000 jobs in May and unemployment holding steady at 6.3%. That brought the total jobs back to pre-fiscal crisis levels, but mostly lower wage rates and not keeping up with population growth. Now this.
We are fighting an organism. They have the power to reset the day, and now so do you.
It's a new day, people.
How do I control it?
You have to die.
Every day. I'm not even trained for combat.
Come find me when you wake up!
The D-Day invasion to save democracy that real military units worked so hard to accurately recreate last week on its 70th anniversary is artistically altered for the new science fiction thriller Edge of Tomorrow, with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt fighting to save all humanity and a touch of Groundhog Day déjà vu.
Cruise plays a soldier who, after being killed in combat, awakens the day before the battle and must relive over and over the moment of his death until he can work out how to escape it. Sounds a little repetitious, but film critic Marshall Fine of HollywoodandFine.com and the Huffington Post calls Edge of Tomorrow the first really exciting movie of the summer. And for your ears only, he joins us again to talk about it, as well as some other recent releases. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me back, guys.
Original and invigorating were two words you used to describe Edge of Tomorrow. How is the alien invasion that begins it different from all other alien invasions?
Well, you don't really see this alien invasion. It's more that you hear about it on the news. It's like a cable news network roundup. You know, if you've just joined us, here's what's happening now. And we were brought up to date on the fact that aliens have invaded Europe. They're on the shores, getting ready to invade England, and look out.
And how does Cruise's character change throughout the film as he continues to recycle himself?
Well, he starts out as a coward. He's basically a recruiting officer, a public relations guy who's on TV telling everybody, come on, join the fight, save humanity. But then he finds out that, in fact, they're putting him on the front line so they can film him on during the invasion to use as a recruiting tool. And he's going, wait a minute, I'm not trained for combat. I don't want to do this. The next thing you know, they tase him and he wakes up getting ready to go into combat.
Cruise has been a major star for more than 3 decades now. Does he still have the chops and charm to tackle all the action required, or at least look like he's tackling it?
Well, I wish I looked that good at that age. He's in amazing shape, and he's completely believable as someone who figures out how to become a soldier. He hasn't lost a step. I don't know how old Tom Cruise is. I think he's in his early 50s. But boy, he doesn't look like he's much past his mid-30s.
And remind us about Emily Blunt's career. Was this her first major action movie, and how does she handle it?
Well, it's funny. She was quoted at one point saying she'd rather do little independent films than be a spear carrier in some Tom Cruise action film. Here she is. She's the action babe who's kicking butt and taking names. She's the one who teaches him how to be a soldier, and she really carries it off. Given that she's done a lot of these little independent films where she's played Queen Victoria as a young woman and other characters like that, this is a big change of pace for her, and she carries it off admirably.
The Fault in Our Stars is not about space or aliens. You call it a well-made movie that earns its tears. What's the plot?
It's young people who are dying and who fall in love with each other. In this case, 2 teenagers who both have cancer who meet and fall for each other. One is played by Shailene Woodley. She's had cancer since she was 13. Doesn't have much of a prognosis for a future. The other is played by Ansel Elgort. He's in remission, a former jock who lost a leg to cancer who falls for her.
Let's move on to Seth MacFarlane's comedy, A Million Ways to Die in the West, which you encourage people not to compare to Mel Brooks' classic Blazing Saddles, despite obvious comedic cowboy similarities. Does MacFarlane simply push the envelope even farther in this film?
Oh, he absolutely pushes it farther because the standards of what counts as inappropriate these days is much different than it was in 1974 when Mel Brooks did Blazing Saddles. That movie was shocking in its time. Now it would, you could play it in prime time on television. This movie is shocking, but it's also less about the jokes and more about the Westerns. Seth MacFarlane is obviously someone who loves classic Westerns, but at the same time, he's not too proud to put in a few poop jokes. Put it this way, I'm not proud of the fact that I laughed a lot at this movie, but I will admit that I did, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly.
Angelina Jolie aims to frighten in Maleficent, based on Sleeping Beauty, but you are not so charmed by it. Is it really possible for Angelina Jolie to be dull?
No, I don't think that's ever going to be the case. She's one of the most fascinating people to look at on the screen, even when she's not doing anything. But she's got to have better taste in scripts. This one is a revisionist fairy tale that casts the Wicked Witch in this one as the good guy. I didn't think it worked. I thought it was mostly an excuse for a lot of computer-generated animation. Aside from that, I think mothers and daughters will go to it and have a great time.
The latest installment of X-Men has arrived, X-Men Days of Future Past. Is it worth viewing by other than X-Men enthusiasts, and how do you see them reacting to it?
I don't know how the X-Men fans will like this. I was someone who was a fan of the early X-Men films off and on, liked the last one, the First Class. Felt like this one they didn't know what to do with the script. They've got too complicated. It's a time travel movie that brings in past and present X-Men. Always fun, but this one just falls apart in the last half hour.
Talk about Words and Pictures, not a history of Hollywood movie making.
No, this is actually a romantic comedy and one of the smarter ones around, with Clive Owen and Juliette Binoche as two damaged people who are teachers at a prep school. He's a writer, she's a painter, and they get their students involved in an argument about which is more important, the image or the word. And it's a way for the two of them to sort of find common ground and fall in love. I think you'll be charmed by it.
And finally, $1 Million Arm, starring John Hamm as a fast-talking baseball agent who has hit a rut that bounces him all the way to India. Is this a feel-good Field of Dreams with Curry on the side?
I think this is a feel-good movie. Disney really knows how to do these inspirational sports films. This one's based on a true story about a sports agent who went to India looking for cricket players who could pitch in the major leagues and brought two of them back. It's pretty inspirational. John Hamm shows a side of himself that he doesn't show on Mad Men, one that has some feelings in a way that Don Draper never does. I think this one may not be a home run, but it's certainly a solid double.
Film critic and historian Marshall Fine. You can read his film reviews at hollywoodandfine.com and the Huffington Post.
Quote from the news, "We traveled back to New York City in style in a luxury Mercedes Sprinter. Road life is a good life." That was comic Artie Fuqua on Facebook after a gig in Delaware just minutes before a horrendous six-vehicle crash that left one man dead and 7 injured, including TV star Tracy Morgan in critical condition.
Next, the roller coaster of romance in story and song, for your ears only.